evening and welcome to this edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. I'm your host, Earl Baston, and joining me is co-host Dennis Brown. We are joined by Reed Jones as well as Jeff Richardson. We're hoping to also be joined by Mike Corday and Mark Trott as we get into the show. But Dennis, you look to bring these guys on to talk about Cup Match. Obviously, Jeff has been very successful as the head coach of Somerset. Cup Match team. Reed Jones has taken up the mantle of the head groundsman and has done an extremely good job. And we want to talk about yesterday, today, and tomorrow because Cup Match isn't just about 1 year. It's about the longevity of it. But we want to start talking about Jeff over the years from a player now to a coach. What have you seen the transformation of the Classic?
Well, the Classic being what it is today leaves a lot to be desired because I think that the standard of play has dwindled somewhat, and I think I'm being a bit generous there. And I think I'm a bit concerned about the image and the valuing of the Classic. Mm-hmm. So there are some decisions that need to be made and some questions that should be asked and answered on how we can make sure that we can bring the quality back to what it used to be.
Sure. And Reed, you've been around the game for a very long time. What got you into being now the head groundsman? How did you get started?
Okay, years ago, summertime, Timmy Edwards, who's a family member of mine. My father used to say, instead of, laying around the house, once you go learn a trade, go help the cousin Timmy out, Cup Match or whatever. And Timmy was a guy, he didn't like to drive so much. So the golf carts and all that, he would send me as his runner. He said, go over to the shed, get a hammer. So I'll go, and as a youngster, you're going over there full speed. He used to be a little hump. Where we keep the roller drawing Cup Match, there used to be a little hump there, and you jump the hump. And he'd say some choice words to me, slow it down. And yeah. So it was funny games back then. But I was learning something, from him. Then he used to allow me to take the light hand roller. And I used to walk the hand roller through the back gate of Summers Creek Club, up through Springfield, and come right out. We're in the vicinity of Mr. Chicken and Somerset is. My mom's house, my homestead's right through that lane there, Manchester Street. And I used to take it down and I used to roll out a pitch. And we guys used to coming up, me, Dwight Baston, Dwayne Baston, Devon Wade, Umar Emery, the Emery brothers, Andre, Owen, everybody used to come and play in my yard. And we guys used to have some neighborhood games where we guys used to wear full whites, bat, cricket ball, pads, school book, we could keep the whole 9 yards. Break a window, hit a six, break a window, everybody run. But yeah, you know what I mean? I have some quality pitches, and Devon Wade would tell you, he always said, y'all gonna be the groundsman of the club one day. Yeah. So that was my first nurturing of it. No, I ended up being Somerset's groundsman by chance. Jacob's first year as
captain.
Cup Match captain. The groundsman, a few weeks before Cup Match, the groundsman abandoned the job. And actually, we guys were playing, and we guys could have lost the points if the field wasn't ready. So we got to the match, field weren't ready, weren't lined up, weren't nothing. It actually rained the night before, pissed on rain. And what I done was I went and got some old cut grass that was, that they stored near the shed. Took that, threw that over the whole entire pitch, and just rolled it. Took a rake all the access as it dried, and believe it or not, you guys got that thing marked up, ready on time. You guys played, both teams scored 300 on it.
Impressive.
And from that day forward, they said, do you need the job? Because I was actually in between jobs because I had just built my house, and and I was just seeking a job. and the club said, "Hey, we need a groundsman. You're between jobs." So I got the job full time. Yeah,
Sure.
so I full time for maybe 4 years, and then the the how would I put it? When the social ills kicked in,
Mhm.
more and more people start moving away from the club scene. Yeah, so obviously the revenue dropped on, and then the clubs just didn't have enough money to 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 support a full time groundsman. So yeah, so I moved on, but I'll say about actually that same year I came, they actually they hired Bernard Brangman in the interim because I had first started a full time job and I just couldn't do it, so they hired Bernard, and then before the season was over, there was a tournament coming, and I got a phone call at Woodis and they was asking me, can I assist with this tournament coming up? So I told him yes, and then I've pretty much been back ever since.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis, you want to jump in?
Yeah, because everybody talks about us having a successful coach in Cup match for the last 10 to 12 years. Everybody talks about having a successful captain, but not too many people talk about having a successful groundsman, who I think is very important in the whole makeup of what happens, especially when you're playing him for Cup match. Reed is a guy who I always talk to, coached him over the years. Reed has always had, I think Reed bleeds some red and blue. Scotty Reed bleed red and
For
blue,
sure, for sure.
and I've always appreciated what he has brought to the table. And some say Reed's a guy probably now says new. You know what I mean? Is always willing to put the time in and assist when need be. So the question I'm gonna ask Reed is, so in preparation for Cup match, like um, what plans are in place? So who decides what type of wicket um, that you have to prepare for the 2 days? Who decides that?
Okay, the captain and the coach will decide based on the nucleus of the team, a basic wicket to their game plan, and as it gets nearer, I might be able to tweak it because we might have a surprise inclusion or whatever. But yeah, they basically they say they want a wicket that's either maybe turning, a wicket that's good for seam bowling, or just an out and out strip that's going to be suitable for the batsman. That, and at home field advantage, that's totally up to us. No, um, had some conversations with coaches and coaching staff to know there's a coaching staff and the captain, and we feel that Somerset has an all round balanced team, so it makes my job a lot easier. So yeah.
A question, Reed, a question, because before I get to Jeff, or we get to Jeff, because I wasn't fortunate to get to the game this year, but I watched everything on TV. And during one of the intervals, I heard Alan Douglas complaining, uh, the St. George's commentators complaining about when Somerset were coming in. No, when Somerset were going to back out to bowl, you just ruled the outside of the wicket. You didn't rule the middle. What? And I said, these guys complain about any little thing. So what do you have to do, like during those intervals? Do you have to reel the whole wicket, or are you under the umpire's directions, or how does that go?
Okay, believe it or not. Okay, now when it comes to ruling, the um after the okay, this is how it goes. From start of the game, the wicket belongs to me, right? I could do whatever I like. From the game starts, once I turn the on day one, once I turn the wicket over to the umpires, they control the wicket. Now, when it came to that particular instance, right? If we had just started play at the beginning of the day, Somerset went in. I had rolled the wicket with the heavy roller. Now, the wicket had already been rolled. Now, Dion went on to get his 100, and finally we got out. So it wasn't many of us going. So the St. George's skipper asked for the light roller, which is the hand roller. He just wanted to be hand roller because all he wanted to do was just pat down the areas that were spike marks. So the center was, because obviously the players can't run down the center, because you run down the center, the umpires can tell you run off, whether she bowled or the batsman. Now, the spike marks were more on the sides. So by me rolling the sides was helping them out more because as a team that's coming to bowl, the spinners are looking for the rough. So basically the captain just wanted me to pat it down. Yeah, so when I was patting down, then he saw me going sideways. Now, I was going sideways because one of the problems was because overnight, the groundsman has to fill in the foot marks, and until that hot sun comes and bakes it, because I only had from the ending of play, I may have like a half an hour to do what I had to do, and then the covers go on, and then 2 hours before the game, I'm allowed to take the covers off. Now, I wasn't able to take because we had a little sprinkling, a little drizzle rain was coming around. So obviously I'm not going to take the covers. So it wasn't fully firm the way it was supposed to be. So, when the bowlers are running in, the spike marks are sliding. So that's why I was rolling sideways. And they just automatically, because I'm so much into the brain anyway, they just felt that I was up to mischief. Yeah, but it was actually in the batting team favor because I was patting on the wicket a little.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeff, you've had a wicket up there all season that's produced plenty of runs. Was that the early talk with Reed as you got into the season?
I mean, that was the early talk throughout the island. I mean, every team that came up there, I mean, if you guys on Facebook, St. George's coach kept making comments throughout leading up to cup match about the wicket being a road and so forth and so on. And yes, a couple of teams scored upwards of 300. But what is failing to understand is that those games that were played, catches were dropped on a regular basis. And I don't think the runs were as a result of the wicket being a road or wicket being dead. I just think it was the fact that the quality of cricket in Bermuda right now is at a state where that teams can bat 50 overs and they're given chances and there's runs are being scored because the chances aren't being taken. It's not like the wicket wasn't creating chances or assisting bowlers because, I mean, we bowled out St. George's twice on it, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I don't know what all the talk was about.
And another thing they gotta remember is Summers has got 5 wickets up there. So 2 might have been playing one way and something else is going to play something different.
Yeah. We're gonna take a commercial break, but when we come back, we're gonna bring in Mark Truck. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. We want to welcome in Mark Trott. Dennis?
Okay, hey, welcome, Trotty. Got a question for you in relation to what goes on within the coaching staff when it comes to players that you look for. Do they have to have a certain mentality or whatnot? What goes on with the coaching staff when you're possibly looking for new players to challenge for positions?
Is that for Mark?
Yeah, Mark and Jeff. Mark and Jeff can answer that.
I'm gonna defer that one to Jeff, because my main comment there would be, if the players know the demeanor and know the personality of our head coach, he's the type of person that looks for discipline to be number one amongst the player, besides talent, the ability to follow instructions, the ability to be a team player. There's all characteristics that he displayed during his cricket career. So I'll let him talk a little more on that subject.
So Jeff, what are you looking for from a player, your current players, not just the guys who are coming in, your current players? What's the expectation of those guys once they decide that they want to challenge for a position in Somerset?
Okay. What I will say is that our team is not always a team based on the best players around. You can have all the talent in the world and not be a very good team player. And what I've tried to understand in Somerset is we have a nucleus of, say, 5 or 6 players of varied skills, very talented, but there's a certain level of discipline and a certain level of respect that's expected to be part of Somerset Cricket Club's team. And like I try to tell people all the time is that because this guy is a great player, doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a great team player, and therefore doesn't automatically make him, available or how can I shoe in to be in Somerset's cut match team. So there are a lot of things that I look at, from the very first training session. It's the way they carry themselves. It's also, and Mark would tell you, I have a meeting. The very first training session, there are certain things that I require. If I ask you to put on the pads, you tell me, I don't have my gear, then you need to leave my session. Or if you're asking me on Tuesday about Wednesday's session, should I bring my gear, then why are you coming cut match training? If you are a cricketer, you need to show up to training with your cricket gear. And there are certain things like there's no wife beaters. There are certain things that I expect, and and what I will say is that I had a lot of challenges with the current team back in the early days in 2012 and 13 because I had some characters, and it's developed me as well as a coach because I don't consider cut match time. I don't consider myself as the coach. I spend more time managing egos. It's about man managing, and it's also making sure that there are repercussions and things in place. So if you misbehave, you're gonna know that you misbehave, and that's something that we've instilled in the team. Whether it be match fee or whether it be we find ways to discipline players, because what I find is that, especially at the national level, we've disciplined our national teams out of contention in many tournaments. Yeah, discipline is huge, but when you take a certain level of arrogance and so forth to be the players that they are, if you could rein that in and corral that and I'll help them to direct that in a more positive way on the cricket field, then yeah, that's my main objective when it comes to cup match time.
Yeah.
And I've grown with these guys. I mean, if you look at someone who's 32 now, they were 22 years old when I took them, when they came on. And it's also, I have to give them their due as well, because they've matured and they've grown. Some of them have become fathers since they've been under my wing, and I've watched them develop. And it's actually a joy to work with these guys, man. To be honest, they would do anything for me and for Somers Cricket Club at this current stage.
Sure. And I want to congratulate you on the job you've done, because, like you said, you've taken some who were immature at the beginning, who have now matured into some well-respected, not just cricketers, but people in our community.
And to add on to that, Earl, someone asked me this question early in the season, just for cup match, about how did I develop my coaching style? And what I've told people is that I was a player, and I had many disappointments as a player at the national level, at Western Stars, and I felt I've been unfair a few times, and I coach to a point where I don't want anybody to feel the way I felt when I was disappointed, when I was done wrong. And I try to be as honest and upfront with everyone I deal with. I have personal, individual relationships with each and every one of my players. I take time during the off season to ask them how they're doing. I'll just randomly say, look, let's go have lunch at Outback or whatever. These are things I do off season with some cup match players.
And that was a question I had, and I think I had it specifically for Mark too. How important is team building in the preparation of, given St. George, there's a lot of info here tonight, but how important is it for a successful team in relation to team building? Like,
well, to be quite frank, I think that's where the success in the Somerset team is come from, because Jeff hit on the head. We have a group of guys that are very talented, and they're right. When you look at the guys, like, you start with our opening batsmen, Taryn and Chris, two personality types that are very, very different. I mean, you couldn't get them any more different than that. But because of the building of the team, the way we've gone about it, and I should say more so the way Jeff's going about it, and getting guys to respect each other's talents, then you see the product out on the field when Chris and Taryn bet. Like, there's a mutual respect for each other. The fact that, Chris is very, flamboyant, is very, you can't put him in a box. Whereas Taryn, is always going to be sort of calm, cool, and collected, and sort of at times, I guess, even rein Chris in a bit. But it's that type of team building, that type of relationship building that's is normal in the team now. So even for a new player, when he comes in, like you take Kyrie first. Kyrie comes in this year, and because he sees the relationship guys have with each other, these players that are currently in the team, it makes it easier for him to adjust. So the first ball in cup match, as his wicket keeping, he tell you he was nervous as you know what, but the players help him to adjust because they understand. They've been there before, so the new player comes in, he feels comfortable. He doesn't even feel out of place. So much so that even our reserves, we've got reserves. We've got guys like Antonio and Chris and Dominique Sabir, like that. They want to be a part of this cup match team, and not because Somerset's winning, but because they see the relationships that the players have with one another. Like, our players can correct each other on the field and be as harsh with each other on the field, but yet know when we go back out on that field, we're out there to do business and we're out there to respect each other. But that took a process, like Jeff said. That took a process Like it just didn't happen overnight.
Right.
They know all the rules now. You know, we don't even. I've never seen a coach. He didn't have to say much. Sometimes we come back on the first day and we may not have played well, and all he'll say is, "Get your dinner. We'll speak about it in the morning." But he understands that they understand that they're expecting and think about what they didn't do well or what they did well, so that when we come the next morning, we could put it all right. But that took time.
And to read, we could talk about the team on the field, but you also got a team with you.
Yes.
You know, how important are those guys? Because it's not just we got Reed's the head big dog, but how about those guys around you who we see, you know, during those 2 days or even before that in the preparation?
Okay, well, on my team, my team is a very experienced team. Now, Unico Smith, who's our mechanic, ironically, his also my cousin as well. He Unico came on board when he was, I believe, 18 years old, fresh out of college, because Timmy needed a mechanic to fix the old roller. The same roller we got today, but back then it used to be a Gershift, and it used to get stuck and used to have all types of problems with it. We got it refurbished some years back. Needs another refurbishing now, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, so Nico has been around for many years. Herbie Brayman, who was a full-time groundsman, he's done many cup matches on his own, is also a product of Timmy. And then my later additions are
Let's see, Dow Hollis, Perry.
Dow Hollis, who's like very experienced as well. He's been St. David's, has helped out down there and is filtered off to PHC and now is up at Sumser Bridge. Sumser Bridge is groundsman. And then I also had Perry Scott. Perry's been around the game for a bit as well. And actually, when I first started as groundsman at Somerset, the wicket was keeping very low. So I actually got the wicket turned over. Now I went around and I searched a lot of the farmers. The local farmers, they just didn't have the machinery powerful enough to do it. So Perry Scott, who was at that time, he was actually the House and Fields chairman. He went on and saw the guy, Watson. And Watson brought up some equipment and he was able to turn the wicket over and got some life into it, regenerated some life, because come to find out, that wicket was laid in 1972, the year I was born. And I just went 50 this year. So you can imagine we're just playing and we're just packing it with new clay. So after a while, it just went dead. So it was keeping low by your ankles. Couldn't get no bunks out of it. So when I turned it over, bought that rich soil. It's almost like when you turn a garden over, how it looks nice and fresh. Yeah, that's how the virgin soil, the virgin clay that was at the bottom came to the top. So So all the guys that I have around me, very, very experienced, been around the clubs for many years. Yeah. And then last but not least, Mr. Brayman. Here's a piece of work, but Mr. Brayman is very important because he does a lot of early hours and late hours watering the pitch. So I showed him exactly how I want the pitch to be watered, because if you knew me, I don't use sprinklers. And I'll let one secret out, because if you leave a sprinkler on and you leave it on too long in one spot, then that's got more water than the other spot. So you're going to have your pitch playing uneven. Now, Herbie Brayman does my ruling. Herbie rules the wickets even. He don't concentrate on just one spot. It's an even ruler. That's why he does the bulk of my ruling. So every member of my team has a specific job and they know what they got to do. And believe you me, I might be a calm demeanor type person, but when it comes on the cut match day, I can be very aggressive, and they'll tell you I can be very aggressive, and sometimes even some choice words. But Somers Cricket Club has a standard, and we have to maintain that standard.
Mm-hmm. So, Dennis, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more with the Somerset Cup Match members. We'll be back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Reed, I gotta ask you, because there were a few occasions where you attempted to make the Cup Match team, but what gives you most satisfaction? Had you been selected to play, or what your role is now? Because you play a very important role as of today in the Classic itself.
Okay, well, I played for the league team for many years. I've had my disappointments along the way, and I thought I should have played, but I'm a team player. They picked me as reserve, and I went on the field and just give it my all. The team today is, like Mark was saying, it's a very team that complements one another. The opening partnership, what he was talking about in Chris and Taryn today, sort of reminds me of the partnership that won the cup back after 17 years in Treddy and Treddy Gibbons and Albert. They're sort of the same makeup, demeanor, personality wise. But yeah, it's everybody. How I look at it, the coach could only pick, the selection committee could only pick 11 players. So somebody has to be disappointed along the way because there's so much talent around. You could only pick 11. You know what I mean? So you get your disappointments. Everybody feels they should play, but like what Jeff was saying, you at that particular time might not fit the need of the team. Even though you might have scored whatever runs or done whatever, you know what I mean? You might not be the right person, the right pick for the particular team for whatever reason. So you have to respect the coaching staff's decision, because they, I know for sure that they're picking the hurl, in that short span to pick the perfect team. Yeah, and then you also because there's a few young guys that are knocking on the door, but you have to say, okay, well, I gotta kind of wait their turn because you don't want to make too much changes in the cup match team because at the end of the day, you don't want to disturb too much a winning team because you make all these wholesale changes, 5-6 changes, and we lose, and the amount of flack that the coaching staff's gonna get. So we just gotta respect, we gotta respect the team that they put forward and just hope that it's a winning team.
Sure. Dennis, I'm going to ask you because what Reed was just talking about was the level of respect that the players would have to have for the coaching staff and the selection committee of picking a team. Back in the day, you remember when guys weren't picked to start playing, football, let alone cricket, and the attitude they would have. But sometimes the players themselves sorted the play out.
Yeah, and I think just looking at the makeup of Somers's team, man, they have a very young but experienced team. Like looking at the team, and from Taryn to like Rhea said, the two openers are very experienced. They could probably bet with their eyes closed and communicate with each other. Then you have Trey. LJ is coming. He's young, but he's got the cup match experience. Dion Stovall and Malak. So it's a young but experienced team.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, my question I was going to ask Jeff is, because I was looking at, the team this year. I had a couple of guys who were in the team who were out. I had a couple of guys in the team that, I would have taken out this year to put in make about 2 or 3 changes. But, once I saw the final team, I said, wow, it's difficult for the young guys who are knocking on the door because I've seen a couple of them, personally. And, so you got to be patient. You got to be patient because Somerset has so much quality in that team right now that, young guys have to be patient. And it's not just a given just because, you make a lot of runs here and there. But like Reed said just now, it is what's required from the team during that year. You know what I mean? So I'm very pleased with what I've seen from the coaching staff in relates to, and just listening to Jeff about his challenges that he had in the beginning. You know what I mean? But look where you started and look where the team is now because, it's like a well-oiled machine. You know what I mean? From the groundsman to the coaching staff to the players. You know what I mean? It's like it's a pleasure to watch. You know what I mean? After all those years of frustration.
Sure.
So we finally
before you go on, we just want to welcome Mike Corday, who has joined us. So
finally.
Yeah, you ready, Mike?
Good evening, fellas.
I was my teammate, man.
Evening, everyone.
So good, Dennis.
Coach with a sentiment. Get back him. Get back. Okay, Mike. So tell everybody, because everybody, assumes the role of a cup match chairman. Like what? Are you just chairman for cup match? What is your role in getting Somerset to where they are today?
Evening, everyone. I'm actually the cricket chairman at Somerset Cricket Club. So I'm responsible for all cricket at the club, from the youth program, the senior team, to the cup match teams. I suppose I wear a couple of hats, but I am responsible for cricket at Somerset Cricket Club.
Mute off.
Am I muted?
No, good. You're all right.
Yeah, so I'm responsible for cricket at Somerset Cricket Club. I'm fortunate, Dennis, that we've assembled such a crack team, in a leadership position. You're only as good as the people around you. And I have some really, really good people around me, right from my groundsman all the way up to the head coach. I mean, like you say, it hasn't happened overnight. It's been a process, but we have some challenges with our league team at the moment. I think we're a victim of our own success with players away in England and all the rest of it. You know how it goes, Dennis.
Yeah.
But they're not big problems. They're problems that I think we can sort out. But in terms of the cup match team, this has been a long process. You know, we've identified some things early, and we've allowed things to come to fruition. So I think we're reaping the benefits at the moment.
And Mark, how important, because not just the head coach, the head coach has a lot to do with it. How important are the assistant coaches in this process, especially in the cup match process?
Well, first of all, let me say this here. Mike understates his role because, honestly speaking, here's a major reason why it was successful. Because he does so many things behind the scenes, and he seems to be able to put the right people in place. And one of the people he's put in place that's very critical to us before I get about the coaching staff is his manager, O'Brien Morrissey. Like OB's personality is like the perfect personality to be involved with the team and the players. And because of that, all of those pieces flow. So by the time we get to the coaching staff and Jeff puts his team together, I think one of the things that sort of benefits us is that every one of the coaches has played a cup match. So, like he said, so we understand how players are feeling on the day. We understand how players even the dawn. You know, we had two players this year who are two of our prominent batsmen, Trey and LJ. Both of them get ducks, and we know how they're feeling. We know how they're feeling because they want to perform not just for the crowd, but they want to perform for the team. So when you have coaches who understand that, then it makes it easier to translate that to the players. Like even in training, like we don't drop our standards. Like when you watch guys like Jacon and his out here and and his drilling the players and tell them, no, this a game. Run the single like the single should be run. And then Gennaro, who obviously is Mr. Cup Match, who's going to argue with him if he says what you're doing is not right, or you need to correct this, or you need to correct that. You know, so when you have a team like that, it makes the head coaches like, look, lots of times Jeff will sit there and just say to the guys, you know what to say to them. No, you tell it. Like when the coach has that much trust in his staff, it makes it easier even for the staff. Like this cup match, what we tend to do is Amber Summers sits feeling first. Gennaro and I would go up in one George Cairns camp because it's right behind the stumps, and we would sit there for the first like 2 or 3 overs just to see if the bowlers are doing the things that we would do working on in training, just to make sure things are going right. And then we can come back and translate that information to Jeff, what we're seeing or whatever. But that's the type of team we have, and really comes down to the coach picking the right people because it's confident in the people, and so it translates to the players. Like they don't have to guess when we guys are telling them something, if we're telling them something that's not right or telling them something that's wrong, because they know what been there, done that. And more importantly, they know that the coach wouldn't have us there working with them if he didn't trust us. So that's the type of team that we built. And it starts, like I said, it starts right from the manager, first of all, the cricket chairman, the manager, the ground staff. They knew it's a total team effort to help them perform at their very best over 2 days of cup match. So it's not even arrogance. It's just that they know the preparation's been put in by everybody. That's it.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So Mike, working with this group of coaches, and obviously you would meet with the coach and then get with the groundsman. That process, when did you guys really start looking at putting all this in place, especially if you're hosting?
Yeah, look, right at the beginning of the season, preseason, before anything started. I mean, we're looking at, Reed will tell you, Reed is looking at the wickets. He's asking us what type of wicket we think we want. All this process takes place very, very early. And you know, I don't want to put Reed on the spot, but Reed is the guy. I'm telling you now. I know that we have some good groundsmen in Bermuda, but Reed Jones is number one, and he doesn't leave a stone unturned. You know what I mean? He's very thorough, and he makes sure he checks with the coaching staff, the players, myself, the head coach, everyone. He makes sure that he's very thorough, and he makes sure that everything gets done. And like I say, it starts before the season starts. You know, it's well before the season starts. Reed's looking at things during football season. You know, so we really I can't state enough how important Reed is to this team.
Yeah.
You know, Dennis has said that it's well like a well-oiled machine, and that's nothing could be that is such a true statement from Reed all the way up. It is a well-oiled machine. It's not like I say, it hasn't been overnight. It's been a process. But right now we're at a point where I think that if no one said anything to each other preseason, Earl, things would still transpire the way they need to. You know what I mean? Because we're that together, you know, right. and our coordination is second nature now. So, you know, I, to be honest, for the last few years, my job's been kind of easy. All I have to do is just sort of make sure things are in place. And I never have to really do too much because things are always in place.
Right.
These guys know what needs to be done, and they just get it done. You know, the Reed will come to me if he has a problem, and we'll try to sort it out. But other than that, these guys from you know, they know what Jeff expects. They know that Jeff sets very, very high standards, and they know that we won't falter in that area. We will not allow our standards to drop, and everyone knows that. So we're all on the same page. It's like a big family, or it really is. Like, you know, we don't just do things cricket-wise. We do stuff outside of cricket. We do stuff together. You know, it really is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned something, because I want to ask Reed, during the football season, Reed, what are you looking at that square and hoping happens that makes your job that much easier when it comes round time to prepare the wicket?
Okay, well, basically, I have a look to see what damage, because, you know, on wet days, it could cause a lot of, because it's a clay wicket, guys, the you know, the studs or whatever, it rips up a bit. So I'm looking at the damage that's caused. Also, sometimes you can, the batsman's boots can bring other substances, soil, different grass. If the grass isn't treated the way it's supposed to be treated, and you got them what you call that, leaf clover and stuff, the seeds and stuff, it gets transferred. So the beginning of that season, soon as football ends, that's the first thing is come on my hands and knees, me and Herbie Brangman, and we're pulling weeds first and foremost. Then we barely cut it, and then it gets sprayed. Yeah, but we pull the weed right out from the root. You know, old school. Yeah. So it's a lot of behind the scenes work that a lot of people they feel that, okay, you probably just throw a little water on a wicket and just run the roller over twice, mark it up, and ready to go. No, it's a lot more stuff that goes into it. And then sometimes we have problems with equipment and stuff, and then, you know, then I'm calling Mike, I'm saying, Mike, you need this or this, and believe it or not, Mike's like a magician, because by that afternoon, machinery is on the property. So yeah, you know, so yeah, it's like you said, we guys are well-oiled machine, and everybody knows the rule, and we just do what we got to do.
Sure. Well, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, Dennis, you're up. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seen this?
Welcome back, Dennis.
Okay, Jeff. So you guys talked about the well-oiled machine. We talked about the process that's taken so many years, and we see things come to fruition in the last 10 years. Everything can't be perfect, man. So tell me, like, if there are after the last trial, if there are differences of opinion of who, tell us how that works. Like who's in the last meeting to pick the team, and how is that team picked? And if there are differences of opinion, how is that rectified in that meeting to select the final team?
Okay. Usually it's 5 of us involved. There's obviously it's the chairman of cricket, which was Michael Day, myself, is the captain, and this year was Jacon and Gennaro as the other two to pick up the 5. The actual process is a democratic process. I mean, it's, we all write our teams down, and everyone had the majority is in the team, stays in the team, and then there's some discussion. Mm-hmm. This year, I think we sprung a surprise on people by bringing in Kyrie Furbert, and that just goes to prove that it's a fair process, and that was a difficult one because Stephen Bremer did a job for us when Jacon retired. Because what we found is that there is a wicket-keeping issue up west for Somerset. I've always believed that in the long form of the game, you need a specialist wicketkeeper. And one of my requests from Stephen Bremer was that he kept for his club. And I think that's one thing he failed to do. And the decision was made that, it was time that we went with an experienced specialist wicketkeeper. And to be fair, it wasn't something that I brought up. It was something that one of the other members of the selection committee brought up. And we put it out there for discussion. And my mind was changed. I think 1 or 2 other people's minds were changed. And that's the route we took. Mm. So it's been fairly easy because most of the guys that are part of the selection committee we're on the same page. They're also part of the coaching team. So it's not like we have someone who's coming from the stand, so to speak, like a spectator. These guys are involved in all the training sessions, and they've played cup match, and they've been around the team a long time. So we all think alike. We think the same way, and they've all been part of the success of the last 10 years. So it's kind of difficult to try and fix what ain't broke,
right,
for lack of a better term.
And Mike, so the teams picked on that Saturday night. Walk us through what happens from their rate through to cup match. Like what happens? What happens after that? The teams picked. Do they just show up on the Thursday, or what happens? What happens after that?
No, Dennis. It's the team is selected. Obviously, it's announced to the membership, and then the following days, there's a sequence of events that happen pretty much the same way every year. We have a final training session. We have get-togethers. We have we do as much as we can before the Thursday. Wednesday we check into the hotel. That's when all the serious meetings start. So yeah, there's a sequence of events that happen. We just don't show up on Thursday and play. You know what I mean? There's lots of preparation, and Jeff is a stickler for detail. So those processes are followed. Hey Jeff, there's no what's a power cut where you are?
Looks like it's driving.
Hey, see, I was on the call from the start, Mr. Corday, and I advised the host that I'm coming down towards the end of my trip, and I'm on the road, so I will be on the call from the car.
Okay,
My wife's driving while trying to get some last minute things done. So there you go.
Okay. That's fine.
Jeff, you get on them about being late.
That's fine.
Bye.
What's wrong with my assistant coach? Hello, Miss Richardson. My assistant coach ain't got no power either. Huh? Yeah, Dennis, it's a process, Dennis.
Your coach is abroad, so I'm hearing tonight. So
It's a process, and every day after the team is selected, something transpires. You know what I mean? The team is together pretty much every day before we check into the hotel. So there is a process, and we haven't strayed from that process for quite a few years, actually.
Don't forget Camden on Monday.
Yeah, we of course we visit the Premier on Monday. Like I said, there's a sequence of events that happens right up to the time we play. So, the boys are focused on cup match. They're focused on what we need to do from the time the team is selected to the time we go onto the field.
Yeah. Let me throw a question to Mark, because Mark, you've been around the club of both football and cricket, working in different capacities. Over the years of cup match, from a player right through to the role you have now, what has been the biggest change you've seen?
Well, biggest change I've seen. I think for me it's really been the unity in the group. Like when I came on, I played cup match, and I played guys like John Tucker, Vincent Reed, and there was a closeness in the group. But I just feel like the difference in this group of guys is that they're just not cricket players. Like they're best mates. Like it can't be understated. Like I think Mike might have said it, or Jeff might have said it. Like a lot of these guys do outside of cricket. Rather be playing golf, rather be just hanging out, and you can't beat that. You really can't beat it. Like they know each other inside out. Like they can make demands of each other just because they're friends. And so for me, one of the things I've really seen within Thomas's group, and I think probably it happened when Randy was captain and they first won the cup back. A lot of those guys were really good friends, good mates, and they still are today. When you have that type of unity and it's evident, it's difficult to beat. I think when St. George's were dominant, that's what they had. To me, that's what they lost. And unfortunately, I think, I'm not trying to blow Thomas's horn, but just like when it took us a long time to kind of dethrone them, I think they may find that it's going to be very difficult to dethrone us as well. Not because of arrogance or anything like that. It's just that we've got a group, and it's not just the core 11 players that are playing. We're talking about the guys that come up here to try to make offense too. They're really good friends, and when you got a group like that, it's very difficult to pull them apart.
I know in life, in sports, everything that goes up must eventually come down. But I just think it's our time right now, and I just think that, like Mike hit on here, things are in place. I think that if we guys weren't here, it would still roll on. Like somebody would have to pull it apart for it to become disastrous. And I think that's where we're at. So for me, that's probably the biggest change I've seen, where the mentality's changed, the whole approach has changed. It's much more professional in the approach. Guys know what is expected, and what's got to tell them now. So for me, that's a big difference. It's like everybody knows what they've got to do, and they get it done.
Dennis?
Yeah, so Jeff, we're going to the first day now. I believe we had some rain the night before, a little bit of rain that morning. What was the plan? Whether you won the toss or if you won the toss, what was the plan for the team? I think we had overcast skies a little bit, and a damp wicket. What was the plan if you guys would have won the toss? On mute.
Truth be told, like you said, it all depended on the condition of the wicket. No rain, we figured if we win the toss, we're going to bat first. Because in order for us to win, we knew that we need to post a decent score, because it should be difficult to build at that level to build a team out twice. So we figured that, in order to win the match, we have to bat once or possibly chase a small total, which is what's transpired over the last couple of years, right? We were quite surprised that St. George's sent us into bat when they won the toss, but because of the overcast conditions and because of the weather, had we won the toss, we would have sent them into bat. We'd have definitely sent them into bat.
Okay. So the plan was about once they, what was the plan once I thought a lot of the stroke play was irresponsible.
But we expected that.
Right.
We expected that. So, had like I said, if it was overcast conditions, then it was about building them out as quickly as we can, posting a big score, and then building them out again. We're always going to try to win the match first. Every decision we made is based on trying to win the match, whatever we can.
Mm-hmm. And I thought the bowlers did and the fielders did very well. One of the differences I noted between the two teams is Somers's team looked very athletic, in the field, in between the wickets, and I thought that was a difference between the two teams, the fitness of some players. So once we knocked them down for 113, what was the plan after that?
Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, the plan was basically to go and post a big score. And to be honest, it didn't quite go to plan, because at one stage we were in a bit of a bother. I mean, I wasn't overly concerned because I'm big on averages. I believe in the law of averages, and I knew it was just a matter of time before our frontline batsmen failed. But we're so deep, we have so much depth in our team that there was no ongoing concern. I knew one of the guys would come in, put their head down and post a big score, and so said, so done. And then for them they would have to do that twice, and that's highly unlikely. So there was no real concern at that stage.
And with Mark, one of the things I also saw the importance of the synergy that you guys have been talking about, and having experienced players, because like Jeff said, the front line didn't really post the scores. Like we lost Trey early for a duck, we lost LJ for a duck, so we had responsibility in Dion to take the game right away from St. George's. How important is having somebody like Dion Stubble in your team?
Well, like you said, having Dion in the team is very important. And the funny thing about our team is that if you look at our first 5 batsmen, Terrence got 100 in cup match, Trey has 100 in cup match, Chris has 100 in cup match, Stubble has 100 in cup match. Anyone that hasn't got 100 is LJ, and he's the youngest out of the crew. And it's just gonna be a matter of time before he enters those three figures. You could see it coming. And I think what happened to D1, because it's funny, every cup match I say to D1 Stubble and Malachi Jones, you guys owe me 100. You guys have been playing too long not to get 100. And the one thing I recognize is D1 this year said he's been playing really well, and he normally was. But I could tell this season he had, in this particular cup match, he made up his mind that he was going to get 100. Like he weren't coming off the field till he got 100. And if you notice, like Jeff said, the way he batted, he never panicked. He just played his normal game. And to his credit, this one player came in and gave him great support at that time, and that was our coach, Kyrie. You know,
Yes.
he hung in there, he batted, he scored a valuable 20 or runs or whatever he got. But that's our team. Like Jeff said, our team is deep, man. Greg Mabry comes in, 10, 11, and Greg can score 50, 60 runs for you, no problem. Like that's the type of team we have. So we never really panic. We get disappointed when players maybe don't perform at the level we expect. But then you got to remember, there's another team playing too, and at a particular stage, St. George is dug deep, and they put us in a bit of trouble. But again, they say forms temporary, class is permanent. Stubble's class came through, and the rest is history. 100. So we never panic. And then, to St. George's credit, Treddy scored 50 or whatever, his first 15 cup match. You play long enough, two things will happen as a batsman. You either get a big score or you can get a dog. That's just how it goes. Your coach would tell you, I think it's at one. You play long enough, you get them. One way or the other. So, we're going to have very experienced season.
Let me just also add, that I didn't mention before, is that when it comes to the makeup of a cup match team, a lot of people feel to understand that players spend the most time doing what a cup match? Fielding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Dennis, you mentioned that Summers looks very athletic. One of the prerequisites to make Summers' team is you got to be able to field. Because you will take a duck, you will get low scores every now and then, but what sense does it make taking a guy who's going to score 50 and give up 48 in the field because he can't catch and he can't field? So there's got to be a certain level of fitness involved, and you've got to be able to field, because cup match can be lost or won by that one catch. You got a guy who's turned a half chance into a chance and taken a great catch. So, I mean, you look at what the catch that Dominic Sabir took in cup match, the one in the Safe Hands Award. And these and to be a reserve for Summers, you have to be able to field. We're not just picking a reserve for the sake of picking reserves. These guys are going to be spending time on the field, and there's going to be a time when a crucial catch may come their way, and they got to be able to take the catch.
True. Before I let Dennis ask his last question, I've got a question for everybody, and it's about the longevity of cup match. We've seen over the years people wanting a shorter version of the game and so forth, but cup match has been around 120 years. What's your thoughts on making sure that this game is around for another 120 years plus, and how we can make sure that happens? And I'll start with you, Reed.
Okay, well, of late, people say about the shorter version of cup match, but believe it or not, and Jeff could tell you in his 10 years of cup match, how many times we won in the last 10. You understand? So we've been getting the results. We had a 2-1 along the way, and we had two close to 2-1s. We almost gave St. George's a 2-1. St. George last year we had to one run.
Yeah, one run.
Yeah. This year we had them the backs were against the wall. Zico came and dug him out of a hole a bit, hit the ball around a bit, and posted a little 40, and we chased that down. My nickname 40. So yeah, I was I said 40. I could work with that. yeah. So yeah. So I think we should keep cup match to its tradition. You know, it's been good. Like you said, it's been around for over 120 some more years. So hey, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Yeah. Mark?
For me, it's one thing that we've done, and I have to compliment the both clubs this year. Is the Coke Cup match. The younger players that aspire to play cup match. We showcase them on the Sunday before the cup match, and that game means a lot to them. So they're getting a taste of the big game. And that's important because when I came along, I always use the example. You guys had me on the show once with my brothers. And I always remember the first cup match my father and I took Roger and I to down St. George's. And that's when St. George's were really dominant. Like that Summers at 9 times out of 10. And, when the first thing he did up with was the Saturday match, like, I think he was like about 8 and I was about 8 runs, about 6. He took us to the change room to meet both sets of cup match players. I never forgot that. And from that day, I always wanted to play cup match. Like I said, this game here is big, and I want to play this game one day. Like we both said, we wanted to play it. So if you give the youngsters their chance and their due, and if they can see the importance of the game, then it don't die. So that's very important. So like, both clubs have to be credited to making sure the Coke Cup match came back this year because that's very important.
Mike?
Yeah, Earl, I'm just going to answer the question. Just simply put, in my opinion, is far too important to change. I think it's part of our history. I think I'm a bit of a traditionalist anyway, and I think that it's far too important to mess with. I think, people expect certain things. The dignity of cup match needs to be upheld, and personally, I don't think we need to change it. It's like Jeff says, if it's not fixed, what? If it's not broke, why fix it? It's just far too important. It means more than cricket. You know that the holiday stands for so much more. So me being a bit of a traditionalist, I just think that it should remain as it is. Obviously, there'll be tweaks and small changes, but in terms of cup match, I'd like to see it continue.
Well said. Jeff?
I'm along the same lines as Mike. I mean, if you change the format, you change everything that's historically valuable to the Classic, all the records that were made, all the first, second, third wicket stands, all that sort of stuff goes out the window. And to be fair, I don't think you see any Somerset fans asking for us to change the format. To be fair, I'm sorry, because look, we go out and try to win cup match. It's a 2-day game. It's open cricket. For people to expect a result every year, I think it's a bit unfair. But that's not the type of match it is. It's an open game, and it has a historical value to the country, and should stay as it is, in my humble opinion.
True. Well, I have a saying that a draw is a result in cricket.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And Earl, only one thing I like to see change, not in the game itself, but at the ceremony, because I believe that it would add more significance to the awards if the awards were announced right at the ceremony. Like this year, they had the MVP, which was great, and then they had the Save Hands a couple of days later. I think a few panelists should be picked for the 2 days to select the MVP and the Save Hands, and those awards be given at the ceremony, after the game. You know what I mean? Like I said, it would add more significance. Although they, as big awards, it would even add more significance if both were announced after the game. So
if I'm not mistaken, then the Constitution would have to change, because I believe the only presentation that can be made in agreement with the two clubs on the day is the actual cup itself. I believe that's the way they've done it.
Well, they announced the MVP.
They announced it, but they didn't present it.
Okay, well, they could still they could do the same thing if you say fans. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
But that's a different committee. That's a subcommittee, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, Reed.
But me personally,
Uh,
I always thought that you should have two separate awards. Safe
Mhm.
hands to me is probably the person that takes the most catches, and I feel that they should have the best catch award. Now, the best catch could be a great diving catch. So if a guy takes a great diving catch, but he's already dropped 5, takes a great diving catch, he can get the safest hands. Is that really the safe hands? Safe hands is the person who does the most catches.
yeah,
So
right.
I think that you could have a safe hands and you could also have a best catch.
yeah.
Well done,
I
Reed.
believe-
Well done,
I-
Reed.
Yeah,
I
right.
believe the safe hands is the best catch, isn't it? It's not who takes the most. I believe
It's
it's
the
who
best
takes the best catch.
That's currently that's how safe hands is the best catch, more or less. Yes,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
but they put the safe hands award. Yeah,
Right. But like you said, someone could drop 5, hold on to a screamer.
That's not safe hands. That's truly
correct. And fortunately, that's not happened.
Right,
Yes.
right. But
But
there's
that is
also
something that is something that we've discussed though.
Okay.
That is something that we've discussed because I think safe hands should be based on consistency
Yes.
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 and you know, if you have a best catch award, then obviously it's the most blistering catch.
Mhm.
So we have talked about these things, and I'm sure the conversation will continue.
Sure.
Okay, Earl. So I have a big question for everybody.
Okay.
Okay. So during the last 10 years, I believe Jordan De Silva has won the cup how many times? 5?
4 or 5.
I believe it's 5.
That might be.
I think it's 5 as well, yeah.
Jeff Richardson has won the cup how many times as a coach?
7.
Whoa. Whoa.
7 and 10. Whoa.
Whoa. 7 and 10. So
But listen. Let's also remember, it's actually 9 because we missed one through COVID.
for 9 years, right, we missed 2020.
It's 10 years, yes, but we missed one.
Okay, so starting from Earl, because I want to include him in this question too. Should these guys go down as some of the greatest captains and coaches? Jeff's probably the best coach in Somerset history. Should Jordan De Silva go down as one of the best captains in cup match history?
When you put it up against others, his record speaks for itself. So it would stand up. It would stand up. Having never lost, he's been captain 6 years.
I think this year.
7.
I think it's 7.
It's won 5 out of 7.
Jacon played 2016, right? Up Somerset. No, 20. Well, how much Gennaro's last one?
Yeah, he finished with 2016 in Somerset, right?
Gennaro did.
Okay, when did Jacon finish?
I think Jacon finished in 2018.
Right. So Jordan's been captain for less than 5 years, it'd be 4 years.
4
because
years.
he missed a year.
And he's had a 2-1,
Yeah,
and he's had 2 10-wicket victories.
yeah. Well, his record, like I said, his record speaks for itself. I mean, he would stand up there with maybe a handful of other captains that have never lost, and of course with Jeff, what he's been able to do with the program, turn it completely around, and gotten the results that he's gotten over the last 10 years. I mean, yeah, one thing about sports, you can never argue about the stats that people put up.
Yeah.
And with that, it just goes to show no matter what you think of the person, the records speak for themselves. And of course, Jordan and Jeff, as well as the rest of the Somerset team that helped to put it all together, they will stand out. And they will be in every conversation about one of the best teams and best leaders and best coach in cup match down the road. That's my answer.
Okay. And okay, so my last question to everybody. what advice would you give to those young players who are trying to break into Somerson's Cup match team? What advice would you give these guys? Because it's going to be difficult. What advice? Some of our youngsters today, you know, they like instant stuff. They want it right away.
Microwave.
What advice would you give these guys? Because there's a lot of talent knocking on the door. Wanted to come some. So what advice would you give these guys? That's everybody.
You want to start, the coach?
Okay, coach.
Okay, what I would say is one of the things that I've tried to achieve in Somerset is to bring back the glory days, because back in the day, you couldn't walk into a cup match team. You know, gone are those days, and that's what I wanted to bring back. I wanted to make it difficult for someone to come into to get into Somerset's cup match team. And in order for you to get into Somerset's cup match team, you can't train the same as everyone else. You have to do your extras. You have to be better than the guys that are in the team. So, I mean, when was the last time we had someone on the final cup match trial do something spectacular? It hasn't happened because guys are not putting in the work that they need to put in order to remove an incumbent or to make our selection difficult. You know, we try for it. Mike will tell you, we hope somebody does something. We hope somebody does something. And it hasn't happened. Curry did enough for us he did enough to unseat Stephen Bremer at the time. But guys need to be able to work hard and come and bring it. They need to bring it on the day. Okay, we don't have all the trial matches like St. George's do. And one of the reasons we do that because a lot of the trial matches have been watered down because it's been difficult to get 22 decent players to play. You know, we end up having to have 13 and 14-year-olds, and that compromises the integrity of the match. So the one thing we say is, okay, let's train hard, start training early, so we can have more training sessions, and then have that one final trial to, you know, the combination of all the training and see who steps up to the plate. And in order for you to, like I said, work hard and be consistent throughout the season. It's simple. It hasn't changed, It hasn't changed. It's been debated forever.
Mike?
Yeah, Earl, earlier I said that I was a bit of a traditionalist. However, piggyback on what Jeff was saying, one of the first things I did as chairman was I looked at the trial match situation. And I knew it's no secret that the trial matches were watered down, and sometimes they were, we couldn't even get 22 guys. It's not like back in the day where you had so many quality cricketers that you had to have trial matches because, you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So we looked at that, and the idea was, look, you know what? Why have all these watered down trial matches? We should have intense competitive training sessions. Don't come to Somerset with mediocrity. Just don't. Because you're not even going to make it past the first hurdle. So let's have some competitive, highly competitive training sessions a month before cup match, and let's see who really wants to play for Somerset. Let's see who wants to represent Somerset from here. So we sort of took that path, and it worked out for us. Jeff will tell you we have some real training sessions. I mean, we're at the point now where guys come to training, and at the end of the training session, it's not a whole lot of banter, and it's a lot of sweat, and there's a lot of drinking power aids and trying to get trying to replace things because you've worked so hard. So I would say to young people, if you're coming, then don't come halfway and don't pretend. You have to be prepared to fight for a spot. You have to do something that makes us sit up and notice you, because you're trying to get a guy out of the team that's been producing for years. So don't come with mediocrity. Come with everything you have. That's the advice that I would give a young player.
Sure. Ma?
Well, I would say patience. It took me 5 years to make Somerset's team. And like Mike hit it on the head, the players that I was trying to remove, they were incumbents. They were guys that were legends in the game. Al Jeans, Pacer Adams, Terry Burgess, Robert Hines. You just have to be patient because you're just not going to move those guys because they perform every year in cup match. So you just have to be patient. And I think a good example, we had a little session tonight, and Obi, the manager, was here, and Dominique, he was doing some throwdowns to Dominique Sabir. And he said to both of us, next year, I'm giving them no excuse not to pick me. I'm going to make sure I score about 700, 800 runs in the league and perform in the trial game so they can turn. That's the standard that, we're trying to achieve, where the guy recognizes that you have to really perform. If you want to take an incumbent of the team, you got to perform. So sometimes a little bit of patience, or more importantly, performance.
Sure. Brother Reed?
Yeah, basically, piggybacking off what Mark's saying, in order to remove somebody, you got to pick yourself. You can't leave it into the selectors' hands. You got to say to yourself, done my part through the league season, score runs, and in the trial, I'm showed up in the trial and I'm score runs, and leave him no choice because Summers' team is that good. And then another thing, cup match is a game like no other because I'm not played cup match, but I'm in reserve 3 times. And I can tell you, my first year as reserve on St. George's, this was the year before we won after 17, so 95. The year when, unfortunately, Shannon Wood have put on the amount of catches. Girlfriend Shannon Warner. So I came on to replace him.
He was paid off.
I'll never forget, right? When I came on to replace him, right?
I can't believe called names.
Yeah, listen. When I came on, no, but because this is something that went down in history. Yeah, that was different. He when I came on to replace him, Mark's brother, Roger, that was his first year being recalled, and Roger pulled me back in the game. Believe it or not, let me tell you what happened. Daxter Smith and Vandal were betting, and they were both on past 50. And Daxter, the ball hit Daxter in his mid region somewhere, and just trickled off into leg slip, and I was feeling fresh slip, and it didn't go that far. But I believe that the players thought the ball went further than it went. So I just took 2 steps out of first slip, and when I picked the ball up, I heard a rumble that I've never heard before. I mean, that crowd just erupted. When I looked up, both of the players were in the center of the pitch, but I wasn't expecting that. It wasn't like they set off for a run. I saw them set off for a run. I ran and got the ball, and to run them out. I just happened to pick the ball up, and when I heard this rumble, it's a rumble I've never heard before, and it was almost like a monkey was on my back hurling. And when I threw the ball to Skrillex. And at that point, I was no more good. I could have went right off the field, but if it wasn't for Roger. Roger says, "Come on, 40, you're better than this. Come on, 30 ball, get it in my hands." Every time I got the ball, throwing it in his hands, playing. You know what I mean? So he brought me back around, and I was able to see out the rest of the game. But hey, at that point, that's when I say a cup match is real. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to handle that atmosphere as well, because 10,000 people, when you heard 10,000 people make a roar, it's a roar. Trust me when I tell you.
Last question, Earl.
Yeah.
Because we've been hearing this for about a year now, that this may be the last year of the coach. I'm putting him on his spot. That's my team. That's my team. I wouldn't know what's happening.
I'll pull him aside.
Well, I'm gonna let all of you know this is my last year as the technical director. I always said at 60 I'll be finishing up. But Jeff, what are your plans? Should I ask your wife this? What are your plans? For this year and moving forward? Okay,
what I will say is that we all know how it got out into the media. Jacome was at a luncheon at the Rotary, and he what did he say? Slip. No one's heard anything from me officially. So here's my official position. I am going to be stepping back somewhat. I'm not walking away from cricket because I have too much invested in Psalms Cricket Club. And I've had this discussion with Mike. I'm not quite sure what it's going to look like. I will still be involved at some level, but it's taken up a lot of my time, especially during the cup match time. And there are other things that I would like to do. What I don't want to see is someone go in there and rip everything apart. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have a discussion with Mike and the president, whoever that may be, to figure out how and what it's going to look like. But I will still be involved. But at what level, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
That's my official position.
Breathe, Dennis. You can breathe, Dennis.
I see Earl smiling.
And what I will say to your comment, my mom, Dennis, my wife has basically told me I cannot retire.
Oh man, that's good. Yeah, get out of the house. Get out of the house.
So that's my official position.
Okay.
Well, I personally want to thank each and every one of you for coming on tonight and the contributions you've made to sport in Bermuda. As I know you guys are both involved in football and cricket, and especially what you've been able to do for the Classic to remain as positive as it has over the years, and may it long continue, because what you're forcing St. George's to do is get better. They have to get better. In order to beat you, they have to get better. And eventually, at some point in time down the road, they'll get it right. But on the day, it's what you guys come back with. And clearly, you have enough in your arsenal right now to combat everything that St. George's is throwing at you. So we'll be around again next year. Again, like Jeff said, not sure what capacity, but the Classic may it long continue. And again, guys, congratulations and thank you very, very much. You good, Dennis?
Okay, guys.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Yep. Have a good night,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Got on, guys. All right.